I don't know where the hell the weekend went, but it doesn't matter because we are off and rolling here on a Monday. It's the Kinner Kev Show. Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM. Happy Monday. I'm Justin Kinner. He's Kev Nash. Mr. Kev Nash, welcome.
What up, though?
I like the jersey. I think you've worn that a time or two before.
Yeah.
KB, though, you've never worn it around him. He might be questioning, hey, where's that old 41 at?
Hey, man, the Eagles, QB Eagles, as my Tecmo Bowl lovers out there know about. QB Eagles, a.k.a. Randall Cunningham.
But I hope everybody had a great weekend. It was a hot weekend, and we're off to a hot start here on a Monday. How was your weekend, buddy?
Oh, man, it got super active. So Friday, I was out at the Dayton Air Show with my friends from Raising Cane's. Yes, it was extremely hot, but it was a good time out there. Hung out with those folks. Then later on that night, was hanging out with Faith Daniels from our sister station 92.1 WROU at their Friday night old school party. Hung out there. And then on Saturday, unfortunately, one of my best friends from elementary school all the way up through middle school and high school is still to this day. His father passed away, and all of us met up there in Detroit for his father's homegoing service. So I drove up there. I got home like at 1 o'clock in the morning. Alarm clock went off at 7. Got up, got dressed, got showered up and everything, hit the road, drove up to Detroit for the service, hung out up there, then made a pit stop up there in Detroit. If you know what I'm talking about, then drove all the way back.
What, you go to the Michigan Pro Shop?
Yeah. Got me a jersey. Got a Donovan Edwards jersey to burn. Something else to burn later too. Then came back, drove back. Then yesterday I was out at Wright Dunbar Day, so I was definitely active this weekend. What about yourself?
Hot as hell. Of course, worked a remote for Hank FM, of course. But went to Zach Bryan concert in Columbus. That was
at the Shoe, right?
Yeah, it was. But we found this parking garage and we just hung out there. You find a little corner spot in the parking garage because they don't allow cars to park there in the corner. So we were able to all our group just hanging out there and drinking waters in the heat. But it was. Dude, it was bad. That heat was bad. That concert was awesome. Absolutely one of the best concerts I've been to. But that heat was absolutely atrocious. And I don't know about everybody else. And I'm I always try to be pretty realistic. There's no way you're going to get out of any kind of concert or sporting event that has close to 80, 90,000 people in it and just get to your car and get out. Okay. But and I'm not starting the day on the show on a negative front, but I need to know what is the appropriate experience post-concert / game of an exit, the exit process. We should not sit in our car for an hour and 20 minutes and not move, right? Is that kind of or is that normal? I'm really not complaining. I was around a lot of people that were, and I'm but I don't know if there's a place you can go that you do just get out of a place that had 80 to 90,000 people in it and just get in your car and go. Because Columbus, they host sporting events all the time. Yeah. It's not like it's just, they weren't expecting this many people. But hour 20 minutes, cars didn't move.
Yeah, I told you about the nightmare situation we got into during the spring game. So I can only imagine what it was like up there with the weather a lot better than it was for the spring game. A lot of adult pops going on. So what is the strategy? What is your strategy normally when you go to a big concert or a sporting event after the show ends? You immediately dart to the car and try to get out of there, or you kind of linger around?
I'm one of those people that basically knows. I guess I don't get upset about having to wait around after an event because I've already prepared for the horrible experience that's coming in. And is it a horrible experience? I think it was bad Saturday just because you were in the heat all damn day. And then it was hot as hell. And then you have to go sit in the car. And then you don't want to waste your gas sitting there for an hour, 20 minutes. But I guess in my head, I'm one of those. I don't try to sprint out. I don't try to be the first one out. It's like the people in the airplane. They stand up, they get their stuff, and then they sprint to the front of the plane. And then guess what? There's me who took my time, and we're at the same spot. It's like the people on the highway or the people, in the car, they go whipping past you, they pull around you, they're in a hurry. And then guess what? We get to that red light. I look over. Oh, hey,
same place.
We got to the same spot at the same time, two different, two different ways of getting there. So like I said, I guess I don't like it, but I just accept it as far as that's concerned. But I did think an hour and 20 minutes out of I think it was Arco. I don't remember the name of the parking garage. There wasn't an accident or anything. It's just, there's also people that don't know how to drive. When it gets like that, you got to be assertive, you got to be aggressive, you got to get your, the nose of the car out there. That was not happening.
Yeah, those lovely people that love to make left-hand turns, those are always the best. My strategy is to hang out, especially after a football game. Hang out. Well, like you talked about, hey, man, if everybody leaves and gets caught in that traffic and you mosey your way to your car, maybe you take about 40 minutes after the game ends to an hour. Then you're probably going to get out of there and just like that. There's nothing worse than just sitting in the car, just sitting there and you're just like ready to go home. I went to the Drake concert in Columbus back in February, I believe that was. Now, obviously, Drake, probably the biggest hip hop artist out there. Shouts out to Kendrick Lamar, though.
He hasn't moved down that list yet.
He's still popular.
I can't tell who's
Kendrick,
winning that.
Kendrick is winning. Kendrick, not only Kendrick winning, Kendrick has won, but Drake is still more popular.
You're not going to wait for a counter?
No, he's countered and lost multiple times. Lots of times.
It's like when Shaw calls into the show.
Yeah, it's already over before it starts. So like when you're dealing with a concert of that magnitude, that many people, you're just not going to go anywhere. So the leaving early doesn't do any good for you, and lingering doesn't do any good either, because you still have to deal with the elements and walk to the car in the cold. So nobody wants to do that either. So it's ultimately a lose-lose situation. So I'm going to a concert down at Riverbend, and anybody's ever been to Riverbend knows that is the absolute worst place.
Really?
Yes.
I've never had an issue.
What?
It's real close to 75, so you just pop right on. But I guess I'm fortunate. Well, see, that's not true. I guess for me, I've been fortunate. But a buddy of mine, they got they swore they knew exactly where they parked, and they thought they got their car stolen, but they were completely thrown off. I'm like, well, that's what you get. I mean, as a Dave Matthews Band concert. Some things could have, maybe helped them get a little confused, but I'm just saying. So, but like they said, that was one of the worst experiences ever. Like then you start to like freak out.
Yeah, your heart starts to.
You're like, did my car get stolen?
Right.
Like now, okay, you don't want to keep walking. So. Anyways, I have not had a bad experience there. I've always thought, pull right up. But you talk about strategy. I always, even if I have to park further back, I'll always park by the exit lane.
Yeah.
So that I don't have to, and then I pull all the way forward, so I don't have to back out.
Yeah.
And all that.
Yeah.
Then it's just turn and go. But no, continue.
Yeah, it's just always bad. I've been to Riverbend probably 10, 15 times. I've never just got in my car and got out of there. Traffic is always slow getting out. Debo, and then you park in the field and stuff like that, and it's just been bad every single time. So I'm still trying to work it out. Go to the Red Hot Chili Peppers are going to be down there July 5th, I believe. So that's going to be a cool show. Never seen the Chili Peppers live before, so I'm definitely trying to work on that. But it's a sold out show for the Chili Peppers, so it's going to be to the max. So traffic is going to be absolutely insane. On top of that, the night before is the 4th of July, so it's just going to be. Everybody's just going to be ramped up and amped up, and it's just going to be a nightmare. But, I mean, it's a chance to see the Chili Peppers.
So, and again, that concert, Zach Bryan, and so many people, the 2-night concert.
Right.
And, I felt like I hadn't heard of anyone going, and then all of a sudden, the weekend hits, and everyone I knew was at that concert, whether it was Saturday or Sunday night. Shout out to the guys at Chatterbox, because I know how long it took me to get out Saturday, and I know what time that concert ended. Like, we didn't get back to 2, 3 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
That was just waiting to get out. So, but last year I went to see Chris Stapleton at Buckeye Country Superfest, and then he was also with George Strait. I went to go see Chris Stapleton. I'm like, George Strait. I'm like, oh, that's that old guy that my grandparents listened to. And then I ended up I realized I knew way more of George Strait than I thought. And the guy, for just a little simple basic guitar, no bells and whistles, no fog machine, he just paced the damn thing. But he came out for the encore. I swear he probably did another hour and a half after the encore. That was George Strait. Now, so what happened with Zach Bryan, he came out for an encore, and it was a longer one. I'd probably say he did a half-hour one. But that was introducing each member of the band, and then doing the main verse over and over again. But that was still cool. But we got out earlier. But yeah, that last year was pretty cool with George Strait, Chris Stapleton. Zach Bryan killed it. I don't know who they're going to have there next year. I'm a big country music guy. I love that. I mean, country concerts. I mean, that's why I look forward to the summer for every year. Country concerts coming up.
Mm-hmm.
Actual country concert over in Fort Loramie, a little small ass town, but they get the biggest names you can imagine out there.
To get active.
But
in the comment section, favorite concert you ever been to?
So favorite concert you ever been to, and then what's your straight? Because Kev asked. So again, I wasn't complaining because I don't think it's realistic to ever expect to go to an event, sporting event or concert, where there's 80 to 90,000 people there and expect just to casually watch your car start it and just exit. But an hour and 20 minutes on Saturday where the car didn't move. Now the reason I'm not complaining is because I don't go to a ton of concerts. So is that normal? Is that just what to expect? So,
yes.
So yeah, okay, and that's fair. So Scott Campbell says, I always try to be one of the last people to leave concerts, sporting events, or even the movies. As far as that's concerned, no need to be in a hurry. As far
movies
as that's concerned. Yeah, he must.
I'm out of there.
Brian Brian Heil says, I go to the Indy 500 every year. We take a
Nice.
grill with us and chill and let the traffic get out. See, that's the thing where we were parked in this garage. It was an empty corner, like where the little things come down. Like you can't park your car in there.
Right.
So we could have probably just popped a grill out there and just started, handing burgers out to everybody because no one moved for 2 hours. Shaw
sold them and make some money.
Shaw says, how you doing? Yeah, no kidding. Shaw says, how you doing, fellas? Hope you all had a great weekend. I'm with you, Kev. I've never had a good experience leaving Riverbend.
It's a nightmare, dude. It's a nightmare.
We got tickets to Riverbend coming up here.
We actually do.
We have a lot of tickets. No, but I don't like. I mean, look, it's Riverbend, but it's just any concert venue. I don't, like I said, I've yet to come across anyone. Dennis says, bring the grill and have a bite and a beer. So that seems to be the solution. See, I like people's mood today. People aren't bringing problems. All right, they're bringing solutions. That's always my thing. Solutions, not problems. And that's always my thing because I'm the one bringing the problems, and I'm just begging for people to give me solutions as far as that goes. John Harvey, what up, John? He goes, the best concert I ever attended was Lady Gaga when she first came out. It was epic. Think Madonna 80s.
Okay.
So, yeah.
What about you?
I don't go to, like I said, I don't go to a lot of concerts, but I go to country concert every year. So that's always cool. But I just like going to country concert. I thought Zach Bryan killed it. But again, I can't say that was the best because I don't go to a lot. So, I mean, I guess I can, but I don't want to sound weird. It was the best concert I ever been to. It was great. But country concert's cool just because, like, especially when you camp out there.
Yeah.
So you have the camper out there, your tent, whatever you're camping in, whatever. Then you're just drunk for 3 straight days, just taking it all in. So country concert in general, the experience of country concert. But no, I've not been to many concerts.
I would say I would give 2. I would give Jay-Z and Beyonce when they were at Great American Ballpark in Cincinnati. They crushed it, and then they came back on and did like a 30-minute encore set. So it's like, all right, they played all the hits. I've heard his hits, and then he came back on and did like some B-side stuff and some more hits and then shut it down. Like, that was awesome. We had floor seats out there. That was awesome. And then at Riverbend, shouts out to Riverbend, they're getting a lot of pub today. J. Cole's concert down there, 2014 Forest Hill Drive show. It was Big Sean, YG, and J. Cole. Absolutely amazing. I remember that specifically because we had went home to Cleveland the weekend before that, and the show was on a Tuesday. No, scratch that. The show was on a Monday. So we get back to town on a Sunday. I have these tickets from the label, so they're good seats. And I'm like, man, I don't feel like it. Following along, singing along. And I'm like, man, I just spent the whole weekend in Cleveland. I'm tired. I want to go home. And then I was like, man, J. Cole's one of my favorite rappers of all time. We're going. Went down there and was up absolutely amazing. If I'd have missed that show, I'd have been mad a couple days later. I'm glad I sucked it up and went down there.
All right. Appreciate everyone in the comment section, whether you're on ESPN Dayton's YouTube channel, the Justin Kinner Show Facebook page, however you're tuning in, Chatterbox Sports on YouTube, however you're tuning in. I appreciate everyone chiming in. You asked about the best concert you've ever been to. I just went and saw Zach Bryan over the weekend, and it was just absolutely amazing. Everybody, though, like I said, I didn't hear of many people that were going. My timeline is just flooded with everybody that went. And I feel like everybody I know went to this concert over the weekend. But like I said, now we're 20 minutes after the concert. In the garage we were at, no car moved. And I'm like, okay, I'm not going to complain until I know whether that's normal or not, because I just want to be pretty realistic. But worst experience leaving a concert that you've had and the best concert you've ever been to. Keep them coming in the chat. It's June, so we'll sprinkle that in along with some sports talk coming up. College World Series tonight between Texas A&M and Tennessee.
105 degrees, right?
Yeah, well, 104 according to this. So it's cool. It's cooling down. It's cooling down. But people complaining that it's on a Monday night, and I'm like, have you watched the national championship game in college football?
Basketball.
March Madness? So is Monday night the wrong night to put a national championship game on? We'll discuss. All right, it's the Kinner Kev Show, 1410 ESPN Radio, Chatterbox Sports on YouTube, the Justin Kinner Show Facebook page, iHeartRadio, wingam.com. I'd say there's more than a few places to take in the show. We'll be right back. Haktua. What a weekend for her.
Oh my goodness,
What
man.
a weekend for Pookie, apparently.
Man, listen.
That is the wildest thing I've seen ever. I mean, good for her for uniting the entire country.
Absolutely.
In a time of divisiveness, which is all the time, right? Like, everyone had a little blast with that little meme and that little soundbite floating around.
Oh my goodness. She is a treasure. Like, I just hope that the hats, the t-shirts, the hoodies, the shorts that people are making with her catchphrase and her face on them, that they're sending her some money.
Oh, they're probably not.
Probably not.
I mean, I'm not going to feel bad if I'm making money off of that technically, but, you know, to say that she worked hard for that money, I mean, you know, what? I mean, like, I get what you're saying, but, you know, I guess you want to be respectful. I guess, yeah.
On that thing.
Yeah, dude, I think there's no way that every single person out there does not know what the hell we're talking about with that.
Got
that
to.
took off on social media. But, yeah. But, you know, we all have that friend that when you're out and they're hammered, you probably don't want a mic in front of their face because then you get that. And, like, people don't know. Like, I think there's one thing I read that her dad's a pastor.
Amen.
Everyone's like, all right, now we know who she is, but we need to find out who Pookie is. Like, we need to find out.
Pookie's like,
So Kev's getting the hat. Is that what you're saying?
Indeed.
Man, Randy said, come on, Justin. What? I just like it's never mind. You know what? Just because I'm going to be careful, you know, just because. But yeah, Randy Scott says, come on, Justin.
June, baby. It's June.
It is what it is. So, no, we welcome you back. Kinner Kev Show, 1410 ESPN Radio. Went to the Zach Bryan concert over the weekend at the Shoe Buckeye Country Superfest. Awesome time. So we're talking about, you know, afterwards, how hot and miserable it was. You know, can't wait to get to the car. I didn't mind. I don't really care where we went. You know, but get back to the car, turn that air on, right? Like,
yeah.
You know, it's cool, but like the car didn't move like an hour, 20 minutes. Like, that's a long time just to be sitting there as far as that's concerned. So I was just kind of asking, is that normal? You talked about Riverbend. And by the way, this isn't like a Riverbend problem. It's not the shoe problem. This is just when you put 80 to 90,000 people in one spot of town, like there's only so many places you can go and park as far as that's concerned. I mean, heck, I've been to Buckeye games and it's pretty much every Buckeye game, regardless of who the opponent is, but like Ubers. I mean, a buddy of mine, because we got tired of waiting. So there was the McDonald's across the street, which luckily didn't have to wait long for that. But you could tell, like, so there's the parents that want to go to these concerts with their kids, but they don't maybe go downtown too often, I guess. And my buddy said that he was kind of outside waiting on us, and he kind of heard the freak out from the parents when they found out that it was $114 for an Uber to take them like 4 miles or whatever. But like, yeah, and you could tell like the college kids are like, yeah, we do that.
That's a normal thing.
Yeah, we ain't gonna walk 4 miles. I mean 4 miles and dark in the city, Bob? Come on, $114. You can't put a price on safety.
Hoof it.
But the dad was like, well, we need when the dad has to pay, he was like, no. But nonetheless, but yeah, it is what it is.
Indeed, man. You got to pay to play. Pay to play.
Jordan, what up? Jordan Earhart on YouTube says he's going to the Dave Matthews Band in Indiana this weekend. Let's see. What else did he say? My morning jacket set at Bonnaroo 2008 was amazing as well. Appreciate it. So Kevin kind of asked everyone their best concert that they ever went to. A lot of times when I go to a concert, especially because country concerts, a lot of times it's like a whole lineup and entire days with the stuff like the Buckeye Country Superfest or country concert.
Yeah, festivals.
So Brooks and Dunn was closing a country concert a few years ago. And I was like, I don't really care about Brooks and Dunn, whatever. But then there's a reason they were headlining that night. I mean, literally every single person, because this is the last one. It's hammered. You're hammered by the end of the night. All of a sudden the lights go completely dark. And then it was Brand New Man that hit. So like I saw the light just boom. And then everyone just puts their drinks up in the air and goes absolutely ape blank. Everyone knows you find out what songs you know all the words to that you didn't know you knew the words to, by the way. It's a great time. One of the funnest times I've had at a concert, but a lot of great concerts out there.
I can't believe I forgot to say this one. This is number one. This is better than Jay-Z and Beyonce. I went to see Usher in Las Vegas. Can't believe I forgot.
Was that this when you were in Las Vegas?
No, this
you
was
Vegas a lot, dude.
Yeah. I live out there.
Good for you.
No, this was during his first residency in Las Vegas. We went out there. I didn't surprise the wife for our anniversary gift, but like I told her or said, hey, we should do this for our anniversary. She was like, you're absolutely right. We should. So we saw Usher in Las Vegas. So, the show, obviously they tore up during the Super Bowl show. We actually saw the 90-minute version of that. So it was absolutely amazing.
Dennis says his favorite concert, X-Fest in early 2000s.
Oh, I know it got weird down there.
Brian Heil says Rolling Stones at the old Cleveland Browns Stadium. So a lot of these are like decades ago. Like anything from recent. Now yours, I'm just saying, yeah. Let's see. What up, Nate Dave? He says Rush at the Palace of Auburn Hills or Kid Cudi on the Man on the Moon tour. Joe Burrow's big. I don't think he has time for concerts, not because he's getting prepared for the upcoming 2024 football season, because he's Mr. Fashion now. He wears jackets with holes in the back, and he's Mr. Fashion now, But you don't need full mobility in your wrist to put on a jacket with a hole in the back, though. So that's good. But yeah, Kid Cudi.
One of my goals in life is to go to Fashion Week in Paris. I want to go. I want to see the vibes. I want to see what the vibes are, man. But like, yeah, I'm a person that believes, fashion is confidence. And I don't knock people for what they wear. Hey, man, you feel confident and you feel comfortable in it, knock yourself out. I am not confident enough to wear a suit with a hole in the back. Just like I'm not confident. I'm like not a turtleneck guy. Like I feel weird in turtlenecks, so I don't wear them. Like I don't have that confidence. You got to be a confident mofo to wear a suit with the hole in the back of it, with a gigantic hole in the back of a suit. Confidence.
They don't call him Joe Burr for no reason. The ice in his veins. He wear whatever he wants, man. Like he's Joe Burr. As far as that's concerned. But all right, good stuff. It's the Kinner and Kev Show here, 1410 ESPN Radio, the Justin Kinner Show Facebook page, iHeartRadio app, wingam.com, 1410 Wing AM on the old dial. Appreciate however you're tuning in. So thank you for that. But it's interesting. So tonight, College World Series, right?
Yes, sir.
Texas A&M and Tennessee. Now, to be honest, I don't really follow the College World Series that often. I don't think many people do. And one of my best friends, he's a big Tennessee fan. So, I feel like I've been getting the daily update on Tennessee, heading into this, finding out, learning about baseball a little bit that, we talk so much about how NIL and and everything that happens with college football and basketball, but Tennessee is like the super program, if you will, now. Like all the great players that are around college baseball, like Tennessee's that school that just keeps absorbing all of them. Mm-hmm. So they're kind of like that super team now. So I was like, okay, cool. Didn't know that. Interesting. Nonetheless, but I see a lot of people complaining about college baseball. Try not, if you want to grow your sport, try not having the game 3 on a Monday night. And I'm thinking, yeah, college football needs to take notes apparently, and college basketball and all this, that, and the other. I mean, the women's and men's Final Four, I think Monday or Tuesday. I think the women's is on Tuesday or Sunday. But either way, I don't know if there's I don't know what the correct night is. To me, I wouldn't want it on a Saturday. You're buried. Everyone's out there doing things, especially in the middle of the summer. Right. I think Monday night is a perfect spot to put a game like this. Monday or Tuesday. I mean, weeknights, everyone's at home because they got work the next day. I feel like when you got a sport like college baseball where outside of like those who are in the know or follow these teams or programs or just follow baseball in general, you want to grow it, that is the night to do it. Mm-hmm. Everyone's home. They don't have much or they have work the next day, so there's not much going on that evening. You put on a Saturday or even, I guess Sunday night could help too, but I don't know what the difference between a Sunday and a Monday night is as far as what you still have going on the next day. I don't have a problem with it being played. 104 degrees. That's the big talking point to me, not that it's a Monday night.
Absolutely not. This is the perfect night to have the game. You can't have it on the weekend, especially like you just said in the summertime. Like you just talked about what concerts you went to over the weekend. I talked about concerts and working and air show and, going out of town and ripping and running. That's what people do in the summer, especially on the weekends. On a Monday, especially, people are at the house. They're going to cook. They're going to sit down. They might spark at the grill or might even order some takeout or whatever and relax because they're just coming off a long weekend. This is a perfect time and day to have it on. Even if you try to have it on a Sunday, you're competing with the Olympics track and field trials. Like that's what I watched last night. I was watching track and field last night. So I would much rather watch track and field than watch a College World Series game. Unless Wright State was playing. And once Wright State is out of the baseball, I normally am out on college baseball as well. So I think this is a perfect night. The one I think everybody should be complaining about would be college football being on a Monday. I mean, it's called Super Bowl Sunday. Most college football games are played on Saturdays. I think college football should be playing their national championship game on a Saturday. Like, that's their whole thing is built around Saturdays. I think they need to move it to that. And shoot, the women's Final Four or championship game is played on a Sunday during the NFL season. So like it's a lot going on. There's no perfect way to do this, but I think this is the best way to do it for baseball, college baseball. There is, because there is no set day for baseball. There is no set day for basketball. You play basketball on a Monday. You play basketball on a Tuesday. You have your days where you play games. This is just another day. But in football, it's normally on a Sunday in the pro game. Normally, it's on a Saturday during the college game. So I think the college game should have their national championship game on a Saturday. And obviously, the Super Bowl should remain on Sundays, and we should get that Monday off.
Texas A&M, Tennessee, College World Series coming up later on tonight, 7 o'clock is when that starts. That's on ESPN, by the way. We are Dayton's radio home of Cincinnati Reds baseball, and the Reds back at home.
Relax.
Well, they've been home. They dropped 2 or 3 over the weekend against the Boston Red Sox. And, you know, they're 36-41 on the season, last place in the Central. And every time it appears as if they're about to kind of get hot and get people to buy back in. I mean, they had that 7-game win streak in early June. Got everyone to kind of think, okay, finally, they're starting to play up to the expectations that they had coming into the season. Then they just keep dropping some of these series, and the way that they're losing games, like it feels like when you watch one loss for the Reds, you've watched them all. They lose the same way every time. And a lot of it is just mental mistakes and just the lack of fundamentals, not being able to field a ground ball. Obviously, they're not very great defensively, especially in the outfield. So it's just this team could be a mess at times. But they got an NL Central opponent coming in 4-3. They got the Pirates game 1 tonight, 7:10 the first pitch, 6:40 coverage begins right here on Dayton's radio home of Cincinnati Reds baseball, 1410 Wing AM. We'll talk a little Reds coming up. Here in just a little bit. Some of the all-star ballots are out. We'll see who are some of the leading vote getters. There's a couple Cincinnati Reds who have cracked the top 10 at a couple of their respective positions. Obviously, every team is guaranteed one, which I hate that. I don't know about you. Do you like the idea of every team guaranteed?
No.
Like, yeah, I'm with you on that.
You got to earn it.
Yeah.
You should have to earn it. I mean, I think you're robbing other players that are worthy just because you have to have somebody from every single team in there. Like, you're not an all-star unless you actually earn it, and especially in baseball.
That's, and like I said, so with that, the couple guys that the Reds have in the top 10 of each of their position on the ballots, like I think that's pretty cool. But at the same time, if you don't crack the roster, I don't think you should just be given a spot as far as that's concerned. Kind of like what you said, just because, well, every team has to get one. Well, you know, sometimes these players know when we're on a bad team, like, okay, I got selected as the all-star, but man, I mean, that's cool. I mean, 10 years from now, you won't remember that, well, I made the all-star roster because, well, someone had to make it.
Yeah, you think somebody from the Detroit Pistons should be playing in the NBA all-star game?
They don't do that, right? Like, that's what I didn't think they did.
It's a weighted vote. Obviously, the fans get a vote. You get the media, you get the GMs and everything like that. So 9 times out of 10, the NBA roster for the all-star game is pretty spot on. But like mandatory somebody from each team, I don't think that's right.
Yeah, so we'll have that list for you coming up here around the corner. Going back to our Baseball World Series, being played on a Monday night. Some people not happy about that. Shaw says that the college football championship being on Monday is perfect. They move it to a Saturday. They would be competing against playoffs in the NFL. Don't think they want to do that necessarily.
The college football playoff is going to be on a Saturday this upcoming season, where they're going to have, I think, 2 NFL games this year
going up against it. And again, it's just a matter of whether the sport wants to protect their championship, right?
Right.
And the other thing too about this as well, it's a series. They play up to 3 games. So I'm at the College Baseball World Series, of course. So it's like technically the championship game could have been on Saturday night if Texas A&M would have, or if Tennessee would have taken care of it, whatever. So we'll see what ends up happening later on tonight. Scott Campbell says, can we get the Reds offense a cheeseburger? They look anemic as far as that's concerned.
Was it offense the problem yesterday? It was like 7-4 yesterday, right?
Yeah, but it was 7-1 at one point.
Oh, okay.
They just tacked on some runs late. But no, yeah.
Watch the games, Kev.
No, but like for most of that game, yeah. And then that's what the Reds do, though. They always kind of put a little bit of pressure on their opponent down the stretch, but they can't pull the trigger on it. So David Shaw says the Reds are atrocious running the bases, including Ellie. Yes, I know he's leading the league in stolen bases, but he gets picked off just as much as everyone else as far as that's concerned. I just look, Yeah, the Reds are the best base running team in baseball, and they're the worst base running team in baseball based on the fact that they lead the league in steals, but they also get picked off and just make boneheaded decisions. I mean, I guess you could chalk that up to them being aggressive. It's kind of like defensive teams in the NBA.
Aggressive.
You know,
be aggressive.
You know, they jump the passing lanes. They're trying to be aggressive to force steals, so they jump the passing lane, so they get burnt backdoor a lot, right? Like, or things like that. That's the Reds a lot of times on the base paths. Not saying I'm defending it or that's just their mentality. We're going to be super aggressive. Look, I'll get to that in a moment. I understand why people are mad at the Reds on the base paths, and I still think that they can make better decisions when they're out there. But people complain about how atrocious this team is offensively. I think sometimes in their head, the best way to score runs is to be aggressive. Like, hey, we got guys on base. We can't just stand here and hope that we're one of the worst hitting teams of baseball. We can't just stand here and hope that someone hits us in.
Mm-hmm.
We got to be a little bit aggressive and try to create some of the magic. I don't know if that's the mentality. I haven't heard them say that. If that is, I can understand that. But I don't know. We've seen them make these bad decisions over the years, even when they have been scoring runs. So we'll see what ends up happening when it's all said and done. But last one on this, Jeremiah Bennett. College football and college baseball, can't really compare the two. I didn't even know the College Baseball World Series was on. Let it be on a Monday as far as that's concerned. All right, good stuff. It's Kinner Kev Show, 1410 ESPN Radio. Brent Venables, Oklahoma head coach, gets a 6-year extension.
Moment sooner, Brad.
And some people were questioning, Oklahoma's decision to do so. We'll talk about that coming up around the corner. I did see a graphic that updated the transfer portal numbers and not just the amount of players that entered the portal. I don't care about that. We always know that's going to be in the thousands, but this is the stuff people don't talk about. We always talk about, March Madness, the NCAA tournament, crown a national champion. People are obsessed with, look how many players are in the portal already, right? What they don't tell you is how many players remain in the portal that don't find a home.
Right.
It's a staggering number of players as we sit here heading into July that have yet to find their new home. And will they find a new home to play their college basketball season next year? We have that, and that's for football as well, by the way. We have those numbers coming up for you here. It's the Kinner and Kev Show, 1410 ESPN Radio. And we are back. Justin Kinner, Kev Nash, Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM. We got some Reds talk coming up around the corner. I see a couple of you are still chiming in about the Cincinnati Reds. Jeremiah says, I'd like to say this is a big Reds problem. Ellie leads the league in strikeouts with 101, closely followed by a non-everyday player in Benson with 95. Yikes. Hard to produce runs when you are swinging and whiffing. Not wrong. I think that the strikeout numbers are not as scary as what they used to be. And I'm not saying, again, it's okay because it is a problem, especially with Ellie. But Will Benson is the more concerning one. I don't think he's on like quite the drought right now as far as that's concerned. Ellie, I expect to see those strikeout numbers improve as time goes on. Again, I think 2 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago was when he played his 162nd game as a Cincinnati Red. That means we're just a few weeks removed from him technically playing a full first season's worth of games, if that makes sense. There's so many positives that come with Ellie's game that I'm not going to overreact to all the negatives because I think his positives have overcompensated for a lot of those. So when he starts to fix some of the deficiencies in his game, he's going to become an even bigger star than what he already is. So, and he's in position to potentially be starting for the National League at shortstop when it's all said and done. Not saying that's going to happen, but he's in position. He's very close as far as that's concerned. But Jeremiah, you're right. That is a concern. As far as the other one that you talked about when you brought up the fact that Benson with his strike, he strikes out and brings nothing else to the table. That's the problem. Ellie strikes out and he brings so many other things to the table as far as that's concerned. Nonetheless, but
how many games until All-Star? Do you know?
I mean, it's mid-July. I don't know. I have the exact number. I know they only have like less than about a handful's worth of series.
So it's July 12th through the 16th.
So one thing Scott says too, he goes, Ellie has played every game this season. He is overdue for an oil change, let alone a rest as far as that's concerned. But hey, I like seeing that. That's your they're star players and then superstar players. I like that when you go to the ballpark, you know you're going to get to see your superstar player. I kind of like that. But, will we start to see a decline in the second half because of the wear and tear? That's a problem for tomorrow. That's a problem for tomorrow. If you're
20 games until the All-Star break.
So 20 games. Yeah, I was going to say, I figure it's about a little hand's worth of series left as far as that's concerned. They have a series with the Yankees around the corner,
You said, or one of the listeners said about him needing a rest or oil change. He's not going to get one during the All-Star break because he's going to be active in the game and all the activities down there. So this magical rest that people want him to get and come back and do what he did the second half of the season, I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think he's just going to have to power through it. I don't think he's going to get this rest that people expecting.
And it could be us just creating a narrative of, oh man, he needs that rest. I mean, I don't know if he needs it or not. He's 20, in his low 20s? I'm 34 and exhausted every day. In fact, I chugged a 5-hour energy, and I about took a second one before the show started, but it said you can't have more than 2 in a 24-hour period. So I figured the fourth one wouldn't have been a good idea as far as that's concerned. So speaking of don't know whether or not it's a good idea or not, Oklahoma. They are entering their first year as an SEC team. So it went from not meaning much to meaning more now, just like that from one season to the next. No, but
I'm a huge fan.
Yeah, I know. But I thought this was interesting. People had a lot to say about this late last week when it was announced that Brent Venables in Oklahoma agreed to a 6-year contract extension. Now, in 2 seasons at Oklahoma, I think that first year they won 6 or 7 games. It was their lowest amount. There was their lowest win total in decades, right? And I'm not going to pile that on him just because in a coaching transition, although some are becoming less forgivable than others because now you can go get players to play gaps, this, that, the other. Okay, whatever. But lowest win total in decades. And then, of course, last year, I think they win 10 games. I finished 15th, I believe, right there in the middle of the pack as far as the top 25 is concerned. But 16-10 is Brent Venables' record at Oklahoma 2 seasons in. He was one of the top assistants for Dabo Swinney. I think he was the highest paid assistant coach in college football during his time at Clemson. And everyone knew that he was going to be a highly sought after head coach, for the right program. And it was kind of refreshing to see a Big 12 team go after a defensive-minded name. Everyone falls in, especially after losing a guy like a Lincoln Riley who was all offense, no defense. I think a lot of people felt pretty good about the all defense, maybe no offensive approach as far as that's concerned. So Brent Venables gets his 6-year contract extension. Everyone's all like, 16-10, man, that bar the Oklahoma standards have dropped, this, that, and the other. And I always laugh because coaching contract extensions and all this and contracts in general, it's all smoke and mirrors. To me, this was done by probably the program, not saying that they are out on Brent Venables or all in on Brent Venables, but what they have to do is put him in position to succeed. And the best way to put him in position to succeed, Kev, is, hey, your future commits need to know that we're committed to you. And that's really what this comes down to. It's the same thing that even if Ohio State would have announced a contract extension for Ryan Day after losing 3 straight games to Michigan, it doesn't mean that that's a vote of confidence that the program has in Ryan Day, but they have to continue to do their part to put him in position to continue to kill it out on the recruiting trail, because that's the lifeblood, whether it's the portal recruiting trail or the high school recruiting trail. It doesn't matter. So I think that's what this is more of anything else. I also don't think that they're out on Venables, but they also have to make sure that they appear that they are all in. They're heading into year 1 of the SEC.
Yep.
It's a gauntlet. They're heading into year 1 of the 12-team college football playoff. They're continuing down this path. They're entering, murky waters during one of the most strange times in the history of college athletics. I actually have no problem with Oklahoma doing this. Everyone's piling on them, saying that their standards have dropped, this, that, and the other. I know for me, I'm not an Oklahoma guy one way or another, but I'm not in or out on Brent Venables. I think that they'll have a good idea of who he is after year 3. I think you have to see them take a big jump in year 3, but they won 10 games last year. All right, they won 10 games last year. You win 10 games in the SEC with the opponents that they have on this schedule this year, that's going to be considered a success. I know you've had a chance your paths have crossed with him. I like Brent Venables. I have no problem with this extension, but I don't think it's like I said, I think people are making too much of it. This is a smoke and mirrors contract extension to show future commits that we're committed to him, and you should be as well.
Absolutely. So much to unpack there. One, we as fans love the transfer portal. I know we have transfer portal talk coming up around the corner, but like, people go to the transfer portal like, oh, just go get a guy at the transfer portal. The brunt of your roster still has to come from the high school ranks. You have to have the relationship with the high school coaches and the players to build up your roster. So for a coach like Coach Venables, he had to get rid of the other players, the fat, right? the bad defensive players, the guys that had bad defensive habits because of the way they were coached under the previous regime. So you're going to have a situation there where like there's a dip until you're able to get quote unquote his guys in there. Now they're getting his guys in there. You're expecting them to take a leap on the defensive side of the ball. On another note, you look at a coach like Mike Norvell from Florida State. After his first 2 years at Florida State, his record was a whopping 8-13. They gave him a contract extension after the 5-7 season. They go on to go 10-3, and then last year 13-0. So like that's the vote of confidence that the coaches have to have in order to get the recruits from the ADs and the people that are the power brokers. So this, like you said, this is standard practice, because guess what? If you are going into your last year on your contract, that's going to be used against you on the recruiting trail. Like, well, he only has 1 year left. We heard about all the stuff that, allegedly Dabo was saying about Coach Meyer. Like, well, he's going to be out of there. You should come to Clemson. And ultimately he was out of there. So, I mean, like, if you think dirty things go on in recruiting, you haven't seen anything until you're basically a lame duck coach. So you don't ever want your coach to be a lame duck situation, even if you don't like him. Say they don't like Coach Venables. Say they want to get somebody else in there. They're still going to give him this contract extension to get the players. You got to have a guy in there to get the players, because the players are the guys that make the team go round.
It's the Kinner Kev Show here on 1410 ESPN Radio. And we talked, of course, about how important it is at the high school level recruiting and the 6-year contract extension, regardless of the 16-10 record. And just kind of running in place the first couple of years, Brent Venables getting his pieces in place, if you will. It's going to get more difficult heading into the SEC. Mm-hmm. But we talked about the importance of recruiting. Well, according to On3, the 2025 On3 industry team recruiting rankings. Ohio State coming in at number 1, by the way. Just want to throw that out there. Go Bucks. But Oklahoma has a top 10 recruiting class already for the class of 2025. So even with the last couple of years, the up and downs, if you will, of the transition, to the Brent Venables era, a top 10 recruiting class. I found this interesting. So Ohio State does have the top recruiting class for 2025. Okay. LSU coming in at number 2, but good for Alabama coming in at number 3 in the post Nick Saban era. They lost a lot of guys to the portal. Caleb Downs, defensive or safety / running back. But good for DeBoer, keeping them, boring along, if you will. Coming in at number 3, Georgia at 4, Clemson at 5. It's wild. The more things change, the more they stay the same. That's your typical top 5 recruiting rankings year in and year out.
The thing about it is, are you going to be able to hang on to other recruits, like key recruits? Like, I'm going to say 90% of those guys are going to sign with whatever team they're committed to right now. But that 10%, that upper echelon, that elite class type of guy, they're committed, but they're not committed. Like, the recruiting thing is very, very weird. Like, it used to be strange, back in the day, you get a bag of money from McDonald's with a couple dollars in there, but now it's all above board. Everything's legal. So, at the last second, Miami may come in there and offer crazy money, and it may change a young person's mind about the school they want to go to. So, like I said, I think 90% of those guys that are committed right now, they're going to show up. There's a 10% of those guys that are committed that I don't think are going to show up. So, like, I still get happy when Ohio State gets a guy, but it's not official until the name is on that dotted line.
Yeah, because you might be having a Chris Henry Jr. situation.
I sure hope not.
I thought you were going to be all giving me the face like, oh, Kinner, stop. But
no, that's the reality, man.
Oh, cool.
That's the real deal, man. Like,
Kevin and I are one of the same.
Until they actually sign. I mean, shoot, we even had people sign like Jaden Rashada, and then no, not coming. Check didn't clear. I want out of my national letter of intent. Then he goes to Arizona State, transfers. Now he's at Georgia. Now he's suing Florida because he got to pay back Miami because Florida didn't get the money they was going to pay Miami with. So it's a whole kit and caboodle mess.
Kit and caboodle mess.
Yeah,
there you have
yeah.
it, folks.
Yeah.
It's Kinner Kev Show, 1410 ESPN Radio.
If you need new roofing, siding or gutters, skylights or patio enclosures,
Hour number 2 of the Kinner and Kev Show, Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM. So someone asked me what happened with Chris Henry Jr. or whatever. And I said, and by the way, earlier when you said, yeah, that's just the name of it, like this is how it goes. But you know me. It's not just that it happens. I've accepted that this stuff happens. I just don't like the lame duck PR statements or excuses or whatever. So, again, this is from late last week heading into the weekend. But Chris Henry Jr. Says he is still locked in with Ohio State with his commitment. Now, he even said that this is where I want to be, talking about Columbus. So, as far as Columbus is concerned, this is where I want to be. He's a future Buckeye. He's committed. He's not, changing it. He's locked in. However, he's still going to go to LSU, and he's still going to go to Oregon on an official summer visit coming up. Let me be clear before I pass it on to Kev. I have no problem with him taking these visits. These visits, you should do all your homework. I guess there's a couple of things I don't like. I don't like verbal commits when you still have another year or two of high school left. I think, if there's some stability there, or your family went there, and you're locked in. Okay, cool. But like with everything changing so often, I just, as a program, I wouldn't even like. I guess verbal commits are better than nothing. So I see that. But as far as putting any stock into him, I would put zero stock into him. I have no problem with these visits, even though he's verbally committed. I just don't like the propaganda stuff. If I'm locked in, I'm locked into the Buckeyes. This is where I want to be. I joked. I said, tell your girlfriend or significant other that, hey, I love you. I'm locked in to our relationship. This is exactly where I want to be, but I can't hang out tomorrow because I'm going to go on a date. I'm going to go on a date. So I'm just saying, see how that goes. That's what this is. It just drives me nuts. Don't say you're locked in. Don't say this is where you want to be, but I'm going to go on a date with a couple other programs. You have every right to do that. Just don't do that stuff. And then you have the fans who fall for it. More power to them.
Yeah, this is a part of it. I would prefer people not commit until they're 100% sure. But also on the other note, granted, I'm not a head coach, but I will want, my son or daughter that's getting recruited to weigh their options, go see everything. This place may have something that the place that you've been dreaming about, that's been your dream school, does not offer you, and not necessarily a monetary thing, but just something about it that pulls at the heartstrings. So obviously I wasn't a college athlete or a high school athlete to get recruited to go to a big time school or anything like that. But my dream school coming out of high school was to go to Ohio State. I'm gonna go to Ohio State. That's where I want to go. Be a Buckeye. Went on my visit, not recruiting visit, just a simple tour of the campus and everything like that. Met with advisors and stuff like that. And on the drive back from Columbus to Cleveland, my brother asked me, how you like it? Smiling yeah, he knows that I've been wanting to go there. He wanted to go there. He wants me to go there. Everything's everything. Oh, man, paperwork's filled out. FAFSA, sign your life away to these loans. And I was like, yeah, I don't think I want to go there. He almost crashed the car on the way. What do you mean you don't want to go there? This is what you've been talking about since you was a kid, wanted to go to Ohio State. I was like, it just don't feel right. It's just too big. I'm nervous, yada, yada, yada. And I found the perfect school for me. Wright State was the perfect school for me. Just far enough away from mom, a smaller campus, a good environment that suited me. So, imagine that tenfold. Imagine that being on the football level. I was just simply a student. You have to be a student athlete. You have to find something that suits you. That other school, LSU, may have something that Ohio State doesn't have. Oregon may have something that Ohio State doesn't have. Penn State may have something that Ohio State doesn't have that pulls at his heartstrings. I think that everybody does themselves a disservice by not taking all your official recruiting visits. Go ahead. And most importantly, just say you are 1,000,000% committed to Ohio State. It's a free trip. It's a free trip to go hang out on a college campus. Why wouldn't you do that? I know I would.
Like I said, not a problem. It's just the order of everything. I haven't committed anywhere yet. I'm going to take all these visits. Even in your head, you may know I'm a Buckeye.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go do all these visits. But if anything, I did this, Jacob and I did this topic the other day, and he brought up a good point. If anything, LSU and Oregon look dumb in this situation, not really Ohio State.
Why is that?
Because LSU and Oregon, now they're going to do everything in their power to try to flip them. But when he says, this is where I want to be, I'm still locked in, but I'm still going on this visit. It just screams that, hey, I'm going to take advantage of the whining and dining. the wooing. Yeah, I just want to go be wooed.
But it's worth the shot.
As far
it's
as
worth the shot.
concerned.
If he's as good as, you know what I'm saying, everybody thinks he is, it's worth the shot, because that one guy that you actually get to flip from another school to you. Like, you think Jackson State wasn't happy when Travis Hunter flipped from Florida State to them because they tried a little bit harder. They pulled at whatever heartstring it was, or put whatever dollar amount in his bank account. They got him to flip from them. It worked for them. So I'm sure there's other schools out there that, hey, man, yeah, I'm 100% committed there. I'm not going there. And you go into there, and that locker room, they give you the spiel. You fall for it, and you flip your commit. So the other schools, it's up to them to make him not want to come to Ohio State. And it's up to Ohio State to make sure he comes to Ohio State. It's all a game. It's all
about the Benjamins.
That too.
As far as that's concerned. Kinner and Kev, 1410 ESPN Radio. We got some NBA stuff coming up around the corner. We'll talk a little Cavs, talk a little Lakers. JJ Redick, what time? He'll be introduced at his press conference coming up here in about 20 minutes. As far as that's concerned, I wonder if it's just him and LeBron at a table hosting a podcast. I saw some fun today too with the Cavs new coach. We'll get to that in a moment. But they're like, man, they're really taking a gamble. This guy doesn't have a podcast. So the Cavs have a new coach. The Lakers have a new coach. We'll talk about the NBA stuff coming up here in just a moment. But I came across this graphic, little college football conversation here. USC, one of the newest additions to the Big Ten, coming up this season. And I found this interesting. USC football's all-time record against Big Ten teams. Now, I have this in front of me. So if you're looking at it, fine. But
I'm not.
Try to guess the record. So I'll tell you at least the total number of times that they've played, and you guess the record from there as far as that's concerned. So let's start with USC football's all-time record against Big Ten opponents. Okay, let's start with Michigan State. They have played 8 total times in the school's histories. What do you think USC's record is against Michigan State?
7-1.
7-1. It's actually 4-4.
Oh,
it's a lot tighter.
Sparty.
Now, I don't have the history of what's the last time they've played or how often they've played in the last 2 decades.
I know Sparty was very, very, very good in the 70s.
So and I think it was probably I would have to guess that those two haven't crossed paths many times. I could be wrong on that, at least in recent history. What about Wisconsin? These two schools have gone head to head 7 times.
That many, huh?
In the school's histories. Yep. What do you think USC's record is against Wisconsin? 500 or above, below 500, close to 500? What do you think it is?
You said how many times they played?
They have played 7 times.
I'm going to go 5-2.
Not bad. 6-1. They are 6-1. USC is 6-1. Again, doing this again with USC being one of the newest additions to the Big Ten, getting to learn the new Big Ten opponents as far as how they fared against Big Ten teams in the past. Indiana.
Undefeated.
They are undefeated. How many times? What do you think their record is? I can't give you the total now.
Shoot. So we got to take into account 9 times out of 10, if you play USC, it had to be in the Rose Bowl.
Yep.
Man, I'm going to say 1-0 because I can't imagine Indiana winning the Big Ten more than once.
So 4-0, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it was all those. Again, I should have went and looked to see how often they've played, when they've played, this, that, and the other. But USC is 4-0 against Indiana in the school's history, as far as that's concerned. Same thing with Northwestern, undefeated against Northwestern, 5-0 as far as that's concerned. What about Minnesota? They share similar school colors, and
yeah.
Outside of that, not history or anything.
I think that it's a tight. How many times have they played?
7 times.
I'm gonna go 4-3 USC.
They're 6-1 against Minnesota.
Off.
No, you're fine. Like, I'd be horrible at guessing this. 6-1. They're 3-1 against the Boilermakers in Purdue. They've only played each other 4 times in the school's history. Nebraska. They've played 4 times. They've only played 4. That's kind of wild too. Nebraska and USC have only played 4 times in their school's history. What do you think USC's record is against Nebraska?
Now, if my memory serves correct, I don't think that Nebraska and USC have played while Nebraska has been a Big Ten opponent.
You're right.
This has probably only been when they were in the Big 12 and Big 8. So this is a bowl game situation. So I'm gonna go with a low number. I'm gonna go 2-2.
4-0.
Really?
They've never lost to Nebraska.
Wow.
Never lost. And Scott Frost is looking to at put a W in that category for at least for them, as far as that's concerned. Now let's go to Iowa. They've played 10 times.
That's a lot.
If you're just joining us, by the way, one of the newest additions to the Big Ten this upcoming college football season, USC, the Trojans, kind of trying to go through the history books and see how they fared against Big Ten opponents throughout the school's history. That 5-0 against Northwestern, 4-0 against Indiana, 6-1 against Wisconsin, 4-4 against Michigan State, 4-0 against Nebraska, 3-1 Purdue, 6-1 Minnesota. But Iowa, they've played 10 times, Kev. What do you think their record is against Iowa?
6-4.
6-4, very close. 7-3.
Oh,
7
so close.
and
so
3.
Close.
What about Penn State? A lot of Rose Bowl history between these two, I would assume.
So I remember the Saquon year where they told him to sit out and he had a monster first half and then the other running back took over. So that's definitely one win for Penn State. I'm going to say they have a losing record versus Penn State. How many times have they played?
They've played 10.
I'm going to say 6-4 Penn State.
6-4 USC.
Oh,
but 6-4 record, you are correct. But USC is 6-4 all time against Penn State. The defending cheating national champions, Michigan, they cheated to win their national championship. Just I don't know if you guys knew that or not.
They did.
But they played Michigan. They've played that team up north 10 times throughout the school's history. What is USC?
5-5.
6-4.
Who?
USC.
Really?
USC is 6-4.
I would figure Michigan would have a winning record over them.
So I thought that was interesting too. And then last but not least,
oh boy,
Ohio State and USC, they have played against one another 23 times. What do you think USC's record is against Ohio State?
Wow. I know they have a winning record versus Ohio State.
They do.
I do know that for sure. 23 times, really?
Yep.
Goodness gracious. 20-3.
Wow, you disrespected Ohio State. They are all time against Ohio State in 23 head-to-heads, 13 and 10 all time against Ohio State.
I was going to say that.
So overall, I mean, look, they have that blue blood resume against all the bottom feeders of the Big Ten, like most do. I mean, right? Like dominating records against your Indiana's, Northwesterns, Purdue's, and Minnesota. I mean, they've played Illinois. That's one I forgot. Illinois, they've played them 13 times. They are 11-2 against Illinois. They've played Illinois a lot more than I thought. Like, it doesn't surprise me that they've only played Purdue a handful of times, Minnesota, Northwestern, but 13 times they've played Illinois and 11-2 against the Fighting Illini. So interesting. All right, all-time record against UCLA, 50-34. All-time record against Washington, 51-31, and then 38-23. Their all-time record against Oregon. So we'll get to know these new Big Ten teams. You've probably never heard of them: USC, Washington, Oregon, UCLA. Throughout the week, we'll kind of get to know these new inductions to the Big Ten.
Welcome
a little bit more. So nonetheless, all right, good stuff. It's the Kinner and Kev Show, Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM. We'll be right back. And we are back. Justin Kinner, Kev Nash, Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM. We are Dayton's radio home of Cincinnati Reds baseball. The Reds are going to be in action coming up here later on tonight. 6:40 coverage begins with the 7:10 first pitch with the Pirates in town. And the Reds dropping 2 or 3 over the weekend against the Boston Red Sox. And look, I can't tell you enough about all the rule changes that have happened over the years in baseball. One of my favorite rule changes was the most important one, in my opinion, which was when they changed it to where every team plays every team every year.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you could say enough about that. The Reds have a series with the Yankees coming up here in about a week or 2 weeks or whatever. I know they play the Yankees before the All-Star break. And I think that is so big for baseball, especially when you're a team like Cincinnati with a major star like Elly De La Cruz, because that's the thing. A lot of times when these smaller market teams get a big star on their roster, sometimes they get buried. You know, Joey Votto, to me, as much as people think I hate Joey Votto, I want to have a serious conversation about Votto real quick, because I think that Votto could have been an even bigger star had he had the chance to play in front of every fan base that's out there.
Fair.
I think he only played in his entire Reds career. I think he only played the Yankees a total of like 4 times, I believe.
Crazy.
And the reason that's important is because that's not just the amount of times that the Yankees have come to Great American Ballpark. That's even the Reds going to Yankee Stadium. So to me is when you have the New York Yankees who have a fan base as big as they do, when they tune in to watch their New York Yankees, they're automatically going to be watching the team that they're playing. Mm-hmm. So then they hear about this guy named Joey Votto, and then they maybe pay a little bit more close attention to his at-bats. And then they see how good he is. And then now those Yankee fans now know who Joey Votto is, right, and that expands. Same thing, they play the Dodgers a lot, but you know what I mean? When they start playing the Red Sox more often, it was cool seeing the Red Sox at Great American Ballpark over the weekend. It'll be cool to see the Reds at the Yankees coming up here in a week or two. Elly De La Cruz is a prime example of a player that needs to be playing in every ballpark across Major League Baseball every year, every other year at the least, which is what's happening. But putting Elly De La Cruz in front of every fan base out there is big time. That's huge to not just help grow the game, but to help grow the Cincinnati Reds. That's only going to make these stars bigger stars as far as that's concerned. So I just thought about that, watching the Reds play the Red Sox over the weekend. I was like, you don't see the Reds and Red Sox play often, but you do now because they're playing every year. And I think that that's very important to help grow the game, especially with the Reds having a talent like Elly De La Cruz. Elly playing in front of every Major League Baseball fan base every year moving forward. Can't tell you how big that is for the Reds and Major League Baseball across the board.
Elly going to be the only team's All-Star?
Right now, Candelario. So we talked about this a little bit ago. Candelario, top 10 at his position. And then Elly De La Cruz is third. He has the third most votes at shortstop. As far as that's concerned. So Mookie Betts is out.
Right.
So that helps. Mookie Betts, I think, has the most. Let me pull it up just to see. So we're all on the same page here. But there's a good shot. So he'll be on there. I think that, he might be the only representative. However, they could maybe get more than one. Hunter Green's been lights out this year. The biggest bright spot for the Reds has been the development of Hunter Green because he looks like their ace. And Nick Lodolo, more nights than not, looks like an ace. I know he pitched poorly the other night. Apparently, it came out that he had a blister that he was trying to pitch through, and that so he couldn't throw his breaking ball that night. So it was a lot of fastballs as far as that's concerned. And it looked like he was missing some stuff because he got hit all over the place, especially late in that game. So I like I like Nick Lodolo and Hunter Green. I don't know what the likelihood of both of them making it is, but I could see the Reds possibly getting 2. I could see Hunter Green making it and Elly De La Cruz as far as that's concerned. So as far as where'd it go? Let's go over to shortstop. So Elly De La Cruz has the third most votes at shortstop at 596,000. So Mookie Betts for the Dodgers has the most votes at over 1 million. Okay. And then Trey Turner with the Phillies has over 1 million votes, almost 600,000 votes for Elly De La Cruz. So if something happens to Trey Turner, and it sounds bad, I'm not saying but that just shows you where Elly is, right, as far as the perception is concerned. He's playing in Cincinnati on the last place team in the NL Central, and yet enough fan bases have seen him or heard about him to where he has the third most votes. I think that's pretty cool.
Absolutely. And this is an all-star game. It isn't a quote-unquote real game. The fans want to see the stars of the game. So I have no problem with if it is him making it and multiple guys from the Reds, even though they're in last place. I have no problem because the fans are voting him in there. They want to see it. It's almost like how people were having a conniption over LeBron and AD making the NBA All-Star team. It's the stars. They're all stars. They're star players. People want to see the stars. I have no problem with it.
So the other one too is with Candelario. So Candelario for a third baseman, he's in the top 10 as far as that's concerned. Candelario coming in at number 10, he has 171,000 votes. Former Red Eugenio Suarez is sitting there at number 9 for the Diamondbacks. But again, you're talking about, you look at the Phillies third baseman, with close to 2 million votes, Manny Machado with 545,000 votes. So Candelario is not going to start or anything like that, but he's at least getting some recognition, which is wild because Candelario played so poorly in the month of May. So poorly in the month of May and throughout portions of April, where everyone was sitting there saying, man, this guy was the worst offseason acquisition that you can get. And everyone was ripping Nick Krall and all this, and he's actually been one of the best hitters in baseball all season. So the problem is the Reds don't have many other hitters to complement what he's doing. If Matt McClain was healthy, if TJ Friedl was healthy most of the season, you have if Christian Encarnacion-Strand was healthy, if you look at Noelvi Marte, if he didn't juice, okay, and didn't get suspended for half the season, you get those guys hitting the way that we expected them to with the addition of Candelario. Now the Reds are matching their pitching output with some great hitting production, but that just has not been the case. But Reds Pirates, what were you gonna say?
No, I was gonna say, can we do a Guardians detour? Can you tell me where Stephen Kwan is?
No, what is this, Dayton's radio home for Guardians baseball? So okay, yes, absolutely. As far as the Guardians are concerned, so you have Andres Jimenez coming at second base. He is 5th in all-star votes right now at second base. Continuing to go down the list for the Guardians, you have David Fry, which, by the way, they're on pace to win 110 games. That is not something that you expected or we expected.
Not me.
You remember we had Trace here. We were getting the station, all the cameras and stuff set up, and Trace was doing the cap or no cap. What's more likely, the Reds to miss the playoffs or the Guardians to make the playoffs? And everyone said it's more likely that the Guardians make the playoffs and the Reds miss the playoffs. And you said it wasn't likely that the Guardians make the playoffs. So
yeah, it's fan I am.
But I don't think many people anticipated this as far as that's concerned. No doubt about it. Well, let's see. Where is your guy? I'm trying to look for him real quick.
I'm just having trouble pulling it up.
So Stephen Kwan, obviously, as far as outfielders are concerned, in the mix as well, with 973,000 votes. So that's definitely helping as far as that's concerned. But yeah, the Guardians well represented in that category. Bo Naylor. I think there's a Guardian pretty much in every single one of these positions. But Jose Ramirez, the number 1 vote getter at third base with over 1 million votes, 1,426,000.
I'm just concerned about Stephen Kwan getting in. He's not like a real big name out there to the masses and everything like that. But I saw this, I guess it was yesterday when I caught the highlights on ESPN. That's the best home record in all of baseball. Like, that's awesome. So, like I was talking about, I was up there in Detroit over the weekend. One of my best friends, his son plays high school baseball. And I asked him if he was going to go to any Guardians games. He was like, unfortunately. He was like, normally when they're bad, like the tickets aren't, a big deal. But like, what I'm saying? He has 3 sons. So, and like, and 2 of them are like huge baseball fans and baseball players. So like, they're not just going to want, just to be in the venue. They're going to want good seats and they're going to be following along and everything like that. So like, yeah, you're going to have to open up the wallet.
So you talked about that. So the Phillies have the best record in baseball at 51-26. The Yankees 52-28. The Guardians 49-26. They have the 3rd best record in all of Major League Baseball right now. But that's been bouncing back and forth between, But as far as the, as far as the American League is concerned, they have the 2nd best record in the American League. As far as that goes, the Reds, they're not in the bottom 5 at least.
There you go.
Well, as far as overall in the National League, they do have a bottom 5 record nonetheless. All right. So Kinner and Kev Show here on 1410 ESPN Radio, 518-1410, 518-1410. That's the number to call in and jump in on the conversation. Jordan Earhart on YouTube says doing almost anything with 3 kids is wild. As far as that's concerned. He also says, Noelvi Marte, second half MVP. They're going to need that kind of performance just to flirt with the wild card at this point. The Reds were in the wild card when they went on that 7-game win streak. They were in the wild card, that final wild card spot, which means technically nothing. I completely get that. But right now, when you look at the National League, all right, they're 2.5 games out. but they were holding it down. Then they were a half game out, then a game and a half out. But after dropping 2 or 3 against the Red Sox and not being able to capitalize on some opportunities over the weekend and throughout last week, they're looking up at the Chicago Cubs. They're looking up at the Pirates. They're looking up at teams like the Mets, they've had a horrible season, and the Mets are a game out. All right, and the Mets they're like I said, that's a disaster of a run franchise right now. I know they're going out and spending money and getting players, but that doesn't guarantee you success by any means. But man, oh man, the Diamondbacks, who represented the National League in the World Series last year, they're a game back. They're with the Nationals, who are a half game back. So the National League race is going to be a fun one, no doubt about it. Okay,
Nationals.
Let's talk about basketball when we come back. I know we teased it, but I want to get into that. The Cavs have a new head coach. The Lakers have their new head coach. Portal update. Interesting numbers out of the portal. We still have a lot to get into as we close out hour number 2. It's the Kinner Kev Show, Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM. Justin Kinner, Kev Nash, back with you here on 1410 ESPN Radio. The Cleveland Cavaliers are hiring Golden State Warriors assistant. Is that me or you?
Me.
Oh, okay. Just making sure. Cleveland Cavaliers are hiring Golden State Warriors assistant Kenny Atkinson as their franchise's next head coach. The sides have started work on a contract, and the deal is expected to be reached soon. And there's an article from earlier this morning. It already has been finalized, or at least announced as being done. Atkinson, again, a former coach of the New York Nets, and then has been an assistant with Steve Kerr. He was the Warriors' top assistant for the last couple of years, of course, and now the Cavs officially have their head coach. So the last two coach hirings, if you will, as far as the decision being from their owner, it was David Blatt, and then, of course, Ty Lue was the decision of them, both of those. And then so we'll see if this is a good hire. Good hire, bad hire? Where are you at with this?
I love this hire. Is an experienced coach, has head coaching experience, obviously the lead assistant for the Golden State Warriors, helped be a part of that championship organization. But this says, hey, we're keeping Jared Allen. Jared Allen was a part of those teams with the Nets where, you know, they play some very good basketball with a young roster. Also, Karis LeVert was on that team. You think back to D'Angelo Russell's one and only All-Star appearance. He was the lead guy on that team under Kenny Atkinson. So this says, hey, man, he's able to work with personalities and players and things like that. So I think this is a great hire for the Cavs.
I don't mind it. Look, when he was with the Nets last time, they didn't have any premier stars. I mean, they had guys that were developing, but average. I mean, one of the best offenses in the league. They made the playoffs. I think they finished like 42-40 or something in a team that was unexpected to be very good that year. Jared Allen was one of those premier players, as you talked about. Look, Jared Allen, I like Jared Allen. I know everyone wanted to beat up on JB Bickerstaff, and Bickerstaff, it sounds like he had issues with that locker room or whatever, but he wasn't in the wrong for wanting Jared Allen to be a little tougher. And I think that's something, if the Cavs want to be an actual finals contender, he does have to be tougher. Now, it's easy for 5'5", fat, out of shape me to sit there and say, yeah, put needles in your body and get out there, dude. But I mean, compared to what the rest of the superstars in the league are doing to make sure that they're physically able to go out there and play, would I like that to be a thing? Yes. But Jared Allen was one of the best big men in basketball all season. Of course, the last thing we remember is him not being willing to maybe do some things to put himself in position to get out there. But the bottom line is, my only concern about the Cavs, we thought they were going to look drastically different next season, and there's a very good chance that the only thing that they'd change is head coach. I don't know if I like them rolling out the same original group that really we've seen for the last 2 years. That's my only concern, because Garland's team or camp has come out and said that, if they extend Donovan Mitchell, that he wants traded, but ownership keeps coming out and saying they have no intentions of trading him. So if that's the case and you roll it back with the exact same roster, maybe tweaking it with the free agent here or there, overall the core is going to be the same. I don't know if I like that. Now, we did just watch a team win an NBA championship that for the last 3 or 4 years, even after making it to the finals, in fact, they got to the finals and they got louder that they needed to blow up the core.
Right.
There's a difference, though, between blowing up your big two and making a change with your 4 and your core. I don't know, man. The Cavs need to shake something up. I don't know if I'm a fan of bringing back Jared Allen, Mobley, Garland, and Donovan Mitchell and saying, well, maybe this year we'll figure it out, unless it truly was an issue at head coach, and maybe then they feel like the core is good enough to win a championship. Is this core good enough to win a championship, in your opinion?
I don't think it's good enough to win a championship. I think it's good enough to take the Boston Celtics to a game 6 in the Eastern Conference Finals. I think they're that talented enough to do that. Championship, I think they're like a big wing away, a quality wing, a very good wing, like a name that's been floated out there a ton, mainly to the 76ers, is Paul George. But I think the biggest thing is kind of like what you talked about, like it's the fit, and what are you going to do? Or are you going to be able to have a coach that is able to have his players willing to run through a brick wall for him? Like, and I don't think that JB was that type of guy that the guys were willing to do that. I mean, you saw Jared Allen shut it down. You saw Karis LeVert shut it down. You also saw Donovan Mitchell shut it down. I think that was the writing on the wall right there, where it was only 2-1 when they were down to the Celtics, and that's when Donovan Mitchell didn't play any more basketball. And then, Karis LeVert didn't play any more basketball. Do you have the relationship and the rapport with the players and that oomph to make them or get them run through a brick wall and make them do things, or get them to do things they would normally be unwilling to? So, like, I don't doubt that they were injured. I don't doubt that they weren't up to snuff. But hey, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and do it for coaching the rest of the team, because, I vibe with him. I rock with him. I'm willing to do this for us. And from everything that I'm reading and I'm hearing, the players were not feeling that from JB. As far as running the back with the same guys, I think the only piece that you have that, you probably could trade would be Darius Garland. But you're going to have to get a big wing, and then you're also going to need a replacement at point guard. So he's a very good player, but I'm not sure what you're going to fetch back as players for Darius Garland.
Yeah, and again, it's always easy to say, well, they need to blow it up and move on. But
right.
Again, if the weapons aren't out there to get, and everyone that Paul George has been tied to, one of them, the Golden State Warriors, by the way, that's one of the most recent ones, especially because it sounds like the Warriors are not interested in trying to renew any kind of contract with Klay Thompson.
Right.
That guy's had one of the biggest drop-offs over the last 2 years. I mean, older guy, but he used to be, people always talked about him being one half of the Splash Brothers and his ability to shoot the ball, but he used to be one of the best defenders.
Yeah.
In the NBA, he can't defend anything now, and I think that's what's really slashed his value as far as that's
when your
concerned.
Knees explode and your Achilles explode, you kind of scared to cut one way or the other. So yeah, his days as a elite basketball player, or especially both sides of the basketball, are over and done with.
What if Atkinson again with that Warriors tie-in? If Klay does become a free agent.
Oh yeah.
The Cavs and Klay make a lot of sense.
Oh yeah, we definitely take that. I mean, they don't have spot up shooting. Like, they have some shooting, Matt Strus is a good shooter. But I mean, Isaac Okoro is not a good shooter, like, at all. Like, I think I can shoot better than him. That's how bad he is. And
again, that's a name you throw out there that you want them to go get. Does not mean that he's going to want to move from the West Coast to Cleveland in this case, but we'll see, what happens there. But with the Atkinson tie-in, if Klay Thompson does leave, it sounds like Oakland, Orlando is the team that's been rumored, but they're very similar to Cleveland. I mean, they have a young star. Right. I think that obviously Donovan Mitchell, a more established star. As far as that, I think Orlando would love to have a veteran like him. Any team would. He's going to be a great addition to any roster. But if I'm Cleveland, you got Donovan Mitchell. If I'm Donovan Mitchell and he's readily available, you go get him. You get him to Cleveland. You got to find a way to get him to Cleveland. Use Atkinson, the connection there, as far as that's concerned. But that's a championship. Now you're adding championship experience to a team that's had playoff experience the last couple of years, that's looking to go to that next level, as far as that's concerned. You get Klay Thompson, where does that put them as far as the pecking order?
I don't think it moves him up. Like you just talked about, he's not an elite defender anymore. Like, he can't do the two things that he always done. His shooting numbers actually went down as well. He's not the defender that he once was. He's not a guy that puts the ball on the ground and takes it to the rim. He's more of a spot up shooter. So I don't think that pushes them over the edge. All right, Justin Kinner, Kev Nash, 1410 ESPN Radio. So right now, another coaching announcement in the NBA. It really happened. What was it? When did that come down? Was it Friday? When did the finals end? Well, I mean, we kind of pretty much knew that was the case. It got a little interesting though with the Dan Hurley. Yeah. But when did they make? Was it over the weekend? Was it Friday? I think it was that day after the finals ended, like that afternoon. So with that being said, well, I thought they made the announcement on Friday. This past Friday. Oh, okay. Yeah, I think you're right. They made the announcement on Friday, as far as that's concerned, because it was when the Pistons fired their guy. Yes. And then the Pistons effect, it sounded like JJ Redick that the Pistons were going hard after him. And then all of a sudden it gets that. So I think it was announced Friday, just kind of preliminary in the morning, and then heading into the weekend, a little news dump, right? As far as the Lakers are concerned, I don't know if that's a news dump or not. Like, JJ Redick, for the Lakers, it seems like it's a big stretch here. But at the same time, I do think this could be a big home run hire, big picture, if that's what they're trying to agree to. But the Lakers aren't making big picture hires. They're a roster that's built for right now with a big picture head coach. I don't know if both accomplish what you're trying to do. I know I stated this last week. Like, LeBron, not keen on playing with young talent. Like, that's why when they draft them, they love to trade these guys away. You talked about maybe not so much about the age. It's more to do with he's not patient enough to allow them to learn the game to catch up with him IQ wise. It seems like that's going to be the case. Him and JJ Redick match each other basketball IQ wise. But again, how do you know coach IQ wise? Like, it's one thing you have a board and you have a mic in front of you and you're drawing out plays on a podcast. Cool. Super. The dumbest NBA coaches could do that in a podcast. But when the game's on the line, I know he's a Duke grad. He's been signed off on by Coach K, this, that, and the other. Okay, cool. But
it's just interesting the coaching hires that LeBron has signed off on over the years. I don't want to wait for players to learn how to play, but I have no problem having a coach who doesn't know how to coach take over in a position. Ty Lue learned how to coach, right? These guys, but at least he was an assistant for a while, so that's what I find interesting about all this. We'll see what happens. I like JJ Redick. I actually hope it works. He has that biggest FU look to his face at all times. It would be he would be even more obnoxious if he succeeds, because that look will just get even worse. Not that Angel Reese, I'm a dog. You can't teach that. I think that's JJ Redick. We'll see what happens. Who knows?
Man, it's such a polarizing hire for so many reasons. I think the fact that JJ has made a name for himself in the media, on ESPN, on his podcast, I think that has added to his allure, from, the talking heads and people that sit in those seats at the front office. I think names like a Sam Cassell just kind of get lost in the mix. Guys that have been assistant coaches for years kind of get lost in the mix because they're not bombastic and out there and drawing up things and showing you their quote unquote work all the time. I think him being on ESPN for it seems like the last 3 or 4 years or whatever has helped him get this job. Obviously, the podcast and his relationship with LeBron has helped as well. But, I think that people are making a big deal about him getting the job, but that's what happens when you're a former player that's on TV. Steve Kerr went from calling games to the head coach of the Golden State Warriors. I'm old enough to remember when Doc Rivers was calling games, and then he got hired to be the Orlando Magic head coach, and he hadn't stopped being a head coach ever since. I mean, he got the Milwaukee Bucks job while he was doing podcasts with Bill Simmons. So this is just what happens. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but I'm not necessarily sure being an assistant coach is the way to go to ultimately be a head coach. I mean, Chauncey Billups never was a head coach before he got the head coaching job with the with the Portland Trailblazers. I think it's kind of made too much about him not having coaching experience to be a head coach with the Los Angeles Lakers.
And we also make too much, too much of the pecking order of the way you got to move up stuff. I know there's a preference of how people want things to be, but I mean, just as in everyday life for us common folk, who matters. You get in front of the right people. That stuff matters. And honestly, it wasn't just that he was on TV. There's a lot of former athletes that are on TV, Dan Orlovsky's getting a lot of that too. Every year you hear about, could a team reach out to him to be their offensive coordinator, this, that, and the other. Okay. Just because why they watch him dissect plays on TV and all this stuff. But it's the ability to connect with the athletes too, as far as that's concerned. As far as the Sam Cassell thing, athletes need to speak up too and say, hey, I want to play for that guy, especially the star players. There's been a lot of pressure put on Giannis over the years and some of these other guys of, okay, you need to be a little bit more outspoken too of who you want to play for. With the Eric Bieniemy thing throughout that time. I know race had a lot to do with some of that conversation too, but there's a lot of people out there saying, hey, athletes, you need to speak out on behalf too and say, I want to play for that guy. Because we talk so much about the power that athletes have, but then they sit back when it's time to hire a head coach. And be like, I don't make these decisions. No, you make the firing decisions. You could also make the hiring decisions. Whether athletes want to be told that you make the firing decisions or not, the bottom line is you do. You do. If the star player doesn't have a relationship with the head coach, that coach is gone. So to act like you don't have the pull to dictate who comes in to coach the team, you have the pull to get a guy fired. You also have the pull to get the guy hired as far as that goes. And that's what happened here with LeBron. LeBron tried to maneuver it as if this JJ thing, it was just all, it was just coincidental. I don't know. I don't think it was coincidental, but don't act like you don't have the power to get a coach hired when you actually do. So
yeah, I mean, talking about that, KD wanted to play for Steve Nash. He got Steve Nash hired and fired because ultimately he didn't want to play for Steve Nash anymore. And then he doesn't want to play for the Nets. So
good times as far as that's concerned. Kinner and Kev, 1410 ESPN Radio. Another great matchup. We only have about 60, 90 seconds here. Finally, a Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese game that just led to people talking basketball.
Oh, man.
You know how I know the WNBA's made it? We're calling for coaches to be fired. I don't even know the name of the Fever coach, but, they had one of those, she was walking out and then walked into the bushes and came back out as Darvin Ham. That's whoever the Fever coach is. But I could tell the WNBA has made it when people are pissed off and angry. Fire that coach. I bet you can't even name, not you.
I
bet
can't.
people can't even name 10 WNBA
Oh, I definitely
coaches.
can't.
But the Fever coach, and I'm spacing on her name, she might be the most, outside of Becky Hammond, she might be the most popular, not in a good way, head coach in women's basketball. Everyone wants her fired for not putting the ball in Caitlin Clark's hand with a chance to tie or win the game late.
What a great game. What a great game. I watched that game. I was down at Wright Dunbar Days, and, I have the social down there. So, walking around and come back in and like, oh, man, they're down 15, fourth quarter. Come back in to get some water, and then Angel Reese goes completely crazy. And the biggest thing about that game was they got stops because they were down 15 with like 8 minutes to go. And she's just out here switching on defense, causing all types of havoc and using her athleticism to get out on a break and get easy layups. And they ultimately came back and won. They almost deserved to lose that game because they decided to miss 5 straight free throws at the end of the game where, they were getting those defensive stops and, they're doing the whole foul thing. They missed 5 straight free throws, giving the Fever an opportunity to win that game. But, fortunate for the Sky, they were able to hang on. So that was a great match. I think that was probably like the best game that they've played, the Fever and the Sky this season. And it's probably, I give ESPN a lot of credit. They actually were talking basketball today because there was nothing, quote unquote, that happened, outside of basketball this time. So good stuff.
Players aren't taking cheap shots and Angel not running her mouth.
Angel, she was running her mouth.
But the play came first as opposed to running the mouth heading in and stuff too, but I was waiting. You know what? I'm surprised. The quote that caught my attention that I'm surprised did not piss everybody off. I thought for sure it was coming. Okay. I'm a dog. You can't teach that. I thought for sure. Oh, here we go. People are coming for the only thing that the social media.
Why would that make people crazy?
Because no one says that. Who says that? You saw here's when you watch shows or movies and they want to give the perception of the really selfish athlete. That's what they always make them say in that. I'm a dog. Can't teach that. I'm going to say that every day now. Kinner, you're on time today. I'm a dog. Can't teach that, dude. That's what I'm going to say. But, yeah, it is what it is.
Good game.
She balled out. That's all.
She balled out.
Good game. Caitlin Clark, one rebound away from making me $127.
Ugh.
That's back-to-back Fever games that she was one rebound away from me get when I needed.
Get on the boards.
Killing
you on the boards. I will say this for the Chicago Sky. If they're going to play this brand of basketball where they're playing 3 bigs and basically chuck it up at the rim and get offensive rebounds, which they do awesome, they have to do everything in their power to draft Paige Beckers. That's what they're missing. They're missing a player that can shoot like a Paige Beckers, that can create like a Paige Beckers. So this college basketball season is going to come and go, but whatever the Chicago Sky can do to draft Paige Beckers, they should do.
Do they do trade deadlines?
I have not a clue.
I have no idea. Is there we talk about all these players that get cut all the time. There has to be good players that are cut, right? That's what I don't know. But I know we only have 30 seconds. Are you looking that up?
I'm looking at it right now. Come on, send.
It's a Kinner Kev Show, 1410 ESPN Radio. We are Dayton's radio home of Cincinnati Reds baseball.
Training camp, Commissioner's Cup.
They may not. So
trade deadline August 20th.
Oh, so they can make trades. Interesting. I don't even
Regular
know.
season ends September 19th. Playoffs begin September 22nd. Last day of the finals, possibly October 20th.
Interesting. Nonetheless, Reds and Pirates, 7:10 the first pitch. 6:40 coverage begins right here on 1410 ESPN Radio. Hour number 3 coming up next.
It's Kubota Orange Days. Shop the year's best selection of